Welcome to your City Commission study session. Please turn off or silence all cell phones during the meeting. Meetings are televised every day on Channel 2 at 6 p.m. and midnight and available for viewing on YouTube. First up, we have Solid Waste Citizen Task Force presentation.
Madam Mayor and Commissioner, I do want to make a quick public announcement that the first scheduled item was the Centennial Bridge update, and we did hear from KDOT this afternoon that they would like to push that update. They're working with their engineers and their communications team and weren't quite ready tonight. A few things came up. So we will move next to the Solid Waste Citizens Task Force, and I'll turn this first over to our Public Works Director, Mr. Brian Faust.
Okay, thank you. The city currently places no limit on the volume of trash placed at the curb. And as you have all witnessed, it is common every day of the week in different parts of the community to see entire households dumped at the curb. While the vast majority of households dispose of a typical household amount of trash, the excessive volume of trash, most of which is not contained in bags, it's basically placed loose, whether that's furniture or mattresses, does create a burden for both staff and equipment. In addition to just plain looking bad, the city-provided residential trash service was not designed to be the solution for removal of these extreme quantities of discarded items. In March of this year, the Commission did create a Solid Waste Citizens Task Force to recommend a common-sense approach to address this excessive amount of refuge. Appointed to the task force were 7 members: Sarah Wagon, Ann Schlusser, Jerry Overby, John Denny, Jeff Howards, Christian Howe, and Bryce Miller. The task force did hold 6 meetings from April through June. The task force completed the review of options for solid waste disposal and have submitted their report for your review. The first 4 pages do contain an executive summary, and everything after that kind of provides an overview of the items that were discussed and to help in that process of evaluating recommendations of moving forward. I would like to add that all members of the task force were very dedicated. They brought different perspectives to the discussion. All participated, and quite honestly, it was a pleasure to work with them. So I've worked with many task force before, and this was just a good group of people. So this evening, Jerry, along with our task force, will present the findings and recommendations. Jerry.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm Gerard Overby, member of the Solid Waste Task Force, hereafter known as the Task Force. I'd like to introduce the other members as present. Mr. Bryce Miller and Mr. John Denny Jr. Out of the other ones that Mr. Faust had already introduced. We'd like to thank the Public Works Department for the support and guidance along the process. We want to express our gratitude and recognition for the selfless service of the refuse crews who day in and day out give great service to our city. Some background: back in February 2022, the Public Works Department recommended that the City Commission form a Solid Waste Citizens Task Force to address undue burdens encountered by the refuse crews on a weekly basis. The Commission saw a great need, the Commissioners saw a great need to address this systematic problem, and on 22 April, the Solid Waste Task Force was formed to take a comprehensive look at the city's total waste management system. Early in the process, we published an online survey for the city residents on the current refuse operation. We had about 1,400 respondents to that survey, which is about 14% of the 10,000 customers. So that's an excellent turnout, and we thought we'd get about half of that. So
that's great.
It paid great dividends. The survey, its results, and the formal report should be in your packet. The next 7 slides outline our recommendation. As I'm speaking, some of this may sound like directives or statements, but all of my comments are prefaced with the word recommendation. These are solutions that the Commission may take to alleviate or mitigate undue burdens encountered by the refuse crew. I won't read out each one of them, but cover the highlights, or I can do a deep dive in any subject that you deem a special topic or you need clarification on. And then please, as I go through this, if you have any questions, we can address them at that time. 90% of the refuse process did not change. So some of these recommendations just add clarity to existing ordinances. The survey showed that the respondents are split between polycarts and trash bags, and the task force recommends a hybrid approach. Those that want polycarts can use polycarts, and those that want to stay with their trash bags can use them still. There's no restriction on the quantity of trash bags placed by the curb. There are other restrictions and ordinances for clarification that we have to go through. All refuge must be placed in a polycart or in a trash bag unless it conforms to some of these other exceptions, which are a cardboard box, which is about 1.5 cubic feet in size, which is marked on the side with a Sharpie or other writing instrument that says sharp objects. And in that box you can put broken glass, mirrors, metal shavings, needles, razor blades, anything that's sharp, placed in that box so that our refuse crews can know, take special care with that box and when they put it in the truck so that there's no accidents happen. Bundle sticks are still an option for our customers. Tires, still the same type of handling of those. 5 tires at any one time, or 10 tires a year for each residence. They can also bring those tires down to the city service center. Prohibited items we'll address later on, I believe it's slide 5. Bottom line, there is no loose trash or loose items on collection day, either a polycart or plastic bags or these other exceptions that we've covered. No item may weigh more than 60 pounds. If so, you need to call the service center for pickup with the grappling truck. That kind of hasn't changed. Polycarts can hold a lot of trash. We must issue caution, though, not to overstuff these polycarts too full as to prevent a free flow of trash when they are dumped and emptied, turned upside down. Brush site, service center, recycle center are always an option. We recommend relooking operational hours and extending flex hours to accommodate customer needs. Large items such as furniture, mattresses, large appliances must be removed by the grappling truck or dropped off at the service center. Refuse crews may say no to a pickup if a violation exists. This violation is reported to the foreman, who has the authority to levy fines if the situation warrants. These are the prohibited items for weekly trash collection. Residents may decide to dispose of prohibited solid waste with a contractor at the service or at the transfer station, the service center, recycle center, landfill, or other place to dispose of them. Contractors must remove debris from home improvement projects that they execute. The city must look at the wording in the contract permit outlining this responsibility. The task force looked at outsourcing collection, but based on analysis, it is deemed that the collection remains a city-provided service. 24-hour prior placement is still in effect. That's placement by the curb. The task force recommends that those who need a whole home content disposal use the service center on the first Saturday of each month. And a reminder that no bulk or loose items are by the curb, and that the content weighs not more than 60 pounds. Task force recommends suspending the ordering and distribution of trash bags. It is not in the best use of the city budget due to the rising petroleum prices and the use of polycarts now recommended. Recommend residents return moving boxes to the moving company, dispose of them in recycling, or place small amounts of cardboard in polycarts or in their trash bag. Recommend the city have a way to quickly mitigate violations by empowering the solid waste foreman to levy fines or levy warnings and then fines for refuse infractions when appropriate. Recommend using the American Rescue Plan Act or reserve funds for polycart purchases. Recommend the purchase of 10,000 96-gallon polycarts that the city retains ownership and stores at the service center for issue. As with the polycarts, we recommend using the American Rescue Plan Act funds to purchase polycart tippers as an add-on equipment to our fleet of refuse trucks. These tippers aid in the dumping of polycart contents into the truck without lifting. These will reduce overall workman's compensation filings over time, reducing both lifting and handling injuries. We recommend codifying these recommendations as city ordinances and then reconvene the task force in July 23 and again in December 23 to redress these issues and changes and make additional clarifications if needed. And that concludes our list of recommendations. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. So on the tippers, I guess, that you would put on the
The trucks, yeah.
the trucks, is that easy to convert our trucks to do that?
Yeah, I mean, we could put tippers on the back, I think it was like $12,000, I'm looking back to see, for those per truck.
So you could either use
Yeah,
that as well as
and
if people
so-
wanted to stay with the trash bags, and you could
You would do
still do it both ways.
Yep.
And what's the cost of, or any kind of estimate on those polycarts?
Somewhere in this $70 a piece range. And so the estimate for the 10,000 would be somewhere around $700,000 to $800,000 in that ballpark. I think in CIP budget
Yeah, we
Or
had just
some.
plugged a number.
Yeah, I was
in-
just,
In the ARPA 2
just 'cause
discussion.
I have not
Yeah.
a clue, so I was just curious on,
Yeah, that was a rough plug number we used in the ARPA discussion.
okay.
we contacted, there's several manufacturers actually in the area that we contacted and got quotes for those.
Okay.
And we did do an analysis on customer purchased polycarts versus the city-owned polycarts. Whether if the customer purchased them, then they would own them, they would take them away with them, and we would have to purchase more, and it just seemed more feasible for the city to buy them, own them, store them, and they stay with the residents, not the resident, but the residents when the people move, the polycart stays there. And then they'll be numbered so that you can keep track of, hey, mine blew down the street, or
Yep.
someone stole my polycart, or, I'm sure you're not going to exhaust all, law enforcement resources to get your polycart back, but at least there'd be a tracking system.
And I've been in other cities to where they actually had, the address of the house, just in case something like that happened.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Hengler, did you have anything? Commissioner Martin?
Yeah, I think it's,
We were asked to look at, the excessive trash out by the curb, by certain residents or certain homeowners whose residents had moved out. But we went a little bit beyond that scope to look at the complete picture of the refuse, including, workman's comp that's been filed for the last, 2 years? And, find out what we can do to help there, and the brush site, and the recycle center, and all that kind of stuff to get people to take their stuff there, and not build it up by the curb. You know, we looked at recycling programs, whether the city would benefit from a recycling program. It didn't, when we did the survey, it didn't seem, people want to recycle, but they don't want to have to pay to recycle.
Right.
So, and the city has a recycle center, people would take their stuff down there. Instead of that stuff ending up in the trash, it ends up where, you know, the city can recoup some money on the recycling.
And then go over again, I mean, the recommendation, which I've seen a lot lately, but when you have like a lot of, you know, basically everything in the house at the curb, to either what, could you make a recommendation, make an appointment with the city to come back at a different time, or give a list of contractors that say, hey, you know, you need to make an appointment or have them come pick it up?
We're actually, one of the recommendations is the city maintain a list of private contractors that would haul that.
Okay,
That have dumpsters available that they could, you know, the larger dumpsters, the roll-offs that they could put their material in. That would not be something the city would do.
right,
We
okay.
pull on that property owner to make those arrangements. But we would keep a list.
There's property owners can place as much as they want inside plastic bags and put those out by the curb, and those are easily just thrown into the back of the truck. I mean, if, you know, if the homeowner wants to take the time to put all that stuff, or they can get a trailer, all that stuff down to the
Transfer station.
transfer station, and, you know, what we're telling them is that you can have polycarts, you can have plastic bags, but you can't have
Just,
extra loose items out.
yeah, just thrown out
And
there.
if you have, you know, if you have furniture, any kind of furniture, whether it's a folding chair or whether it's, you know, a dining room set or a sofa, you know, you've got to call the service center and have the grapple truck come out and pick it up. Now, some things that I didn't cover there is, you know, you get a grapple truck one time a month, so that's 12 times a year. I've been here 17 years and I've called them twice to pick up, you know, large appliances. So I think we're not taking away, we're just giving left and right limits to what a customer can do. So, you know, we didn't want to take away, we didn't want to burden the customer with additional stuff, but we wanted to do some common sense things to stop the emptying out of entire properties on the lawn and creating an undue burden for our refuse crews.
Right, that, and, you know, sometimes on properties, it's sitting out for a few days, and then
Right.
the wind blows it, or you have animals that get into it.
And
It's more of a
the
mess.
Solid waste foreman has said that, you know, he would go out a day before to the properties which are gonna be picked up, to ensure that stuff is not out 24 hours in advance. And that we can start reporting that. You know, a sofa that sits out or a mattress that sits out and it gets rained on like today, tomorrow that's gonna be, you know, 4,000 or 5,000 pounds. You know,
Right,
that they
it's-
can't,
yeah.
they can't even pick up.
No.
So you have to call the service center and have them come by with the truck. Now, it's not gonna come by on your scheduled pickup on Tuesday or Thursday or whatever, but they can make, you know, appointment with you to come out, put that stuff out, and a truck can come by and pick it up. So, and that really hasn't changed, except we've said, instead of unlimited, you know, you can't call the service center every week and have them come pick up something. But we limited it to 2 items, like if you had a washer and dryer that you replaced. 2 items, once a month, that's 12 times you can call them to have 2 items taken away. And we believe that was common sense restrictions on the amount that a grapple truck is being used.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's quite a bit.
That's quite a bit.
But,
And
you know,
and I don't think, you know, like Brian says, the average person puts 2 or 3 bags of trash out a week. And that's no problem. You know, the guys go by and throw it in and go to the next property, but it's when they hit that whole home. And that happens, you know, 3 times a week, 3 or 4 times a week, you know, so.
Which, and then it takes them maybe an hour or so
And the
to
trip-
deal with that,
the
and
trips down
then,
to the transfer
they end up
station and
working
everything.
later because they can't get it. Yeah, you're right, it takes them longer.
One of the things also that came out of this was more of an educational component. One of the survey questions dealt with, did you know about, like the first Saturdays type of thing? And so there was the recommendation to, provide more education, whether it's to contractors or just information out there to the public that, hey, these are the services we do have. We do have the brush site, we do have a recycle center, we do have first Saturdays. And also, as we mentioned, switching hours, because right now we're open, a lot of times when staff is here, Monday through Friday. Occasionally we open on Saturdays on the brush site, but do some late hours in the evening. So we rotate, so when people come home from work, they could actually take stuff to whether it's the recycle center or the brush site, give them those additional options. So we hope to reduce the amount of trash.
Yeah, we're not saying increase the amount of hours that someone's at work to extend. We're saying maybe that person comes in later in the day and gets the 8 hours into the evening.
Like a couple times a month, or if you were consistent on the,
Right, it's like
the
the
second
first
Wednesday or
the second
Saturday.
Wednesday.
Yeah,
or whatever
right.
like that,
People can remember that.
And then again, we didn't want to make this so convoluted that the average person didn't know when they could go to this place, when they could do this, how much trash that they could put out. Most of this stuff was just kind of reinforcing the ordinances that are already there, and then getting the word out for these sites that are open, recycle center, brush site, and all that kind of stuff, so.
Right, yeah, you need to educate people, and you need to make it, as simple as it is, so then it gives them a chance to be able to do the right thing.
Well, and I think just where it all stemmed from, all the pictures you showed a few months ago from mine, I mean, just getting more uniformity with either bags or polycarts, whatever that is, and just, no more furniture boxes. I was thinking about that. I'm like, well, get stuff from Amazon on and off. Like, you know what? I keep a box cutter close by, trash day, crumple it up. It's not a huge deal,
Yeah, you
They can be recycled.
And those can
You
be
can recycle
recycled.
your Amazon boxes, or, if you have one and it's not worth your trip to go down there, you can cut it up, put it in your plastic bag or put it in your polycart and send it on its way.
Mm-hmm.
It breaks down in the environment.
I think a lot of people will actually transition to polycarts. There was, the survey showed more people wanted to retain the bags.
Yes, it was 50-50, but when you see the ease of the polycart, roll it out, they empty it, you roll it back in. So,
Well, and I love the idea of getting rid of the trash bags, and that's like $280,000 annually, and that's, you take that over all of our residents, was it 10,700 something, that are getting the service today? I mean, that's like 11% drop in refuse fees we could potentially have even on our budget standpoint, so it's.
Well, and they look how much they went up,
And
well,
then-
like everything
yeah,
else
and in
did.
3 years, you paid for your polycarts.
They were,
Mhm.
yeah.
In the polycarts,
Almost.
all the manufacturers that we talked to, that they warrant them against defects and breaking, if you get hit by a car, that's different. But it's a 12-year warranty.
Oh,
And so
okay.
your trash bags are gone. Your
Right.
polycart is, in theory, good for 12 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, on those polycarts, I'm sure, I don't know, I guess you could just throw the trash right in there, or you could still, if they had even their kitchen trash bags or whatever.
Yeah,
they
but
could-
nobody wants to consistently rinse out and clean out their polycarts, so they
Right.
put their trash in bags and throw it in there.
Right.
That's how I would do it,
Me too, but I didn't, some people may not.
but that's an option for them.
Yeah, that's right.
Like I said, there was some excellent discussion all through the process.
Uh-huh,
Whether, pros and cons of polycarts versus bags. Whether we should limit to 6, when you look at the survey that was attached, the vast majority of residents, 6 bags or less is all they have, so should we limit it to 6? And really the group came to the conclusion, like, we really don't want to, if someone has more trash 1 or 2 times, we don't want to put those limits on people. We just want a common sense approach, make sure everything is contained, and have options for people who have more trash, whether that be the grapple truck or provide that list of names of private contractors. So I think it's a very good set of recommendations.
Yeah, we don't, we didn't want to start finding tires in 5 Mile Creek or, something like that where people are trying to get rid of their trash because there's too many restrictions on it. We wanted to, one of the things in the survey was, hey, we like that we can, one of the selling points of the Public Works Department is you can put out as much trash as you want, we'll pick it up. And so we wanted to kind of continue to do that, but with some controls on that.
Right.
Okay? And then we want the city to look at ways to enforce, because you don't want to have ordinances that you can't enforce, or that you're unwilling to enforce. So, if someone puts out, the contents of their property, then the refuse crew's got to be able to go by and go, no, we're not picking this up. Here's a note on your door. Here's why. Report goes to the foreman. You can go out. You can cite them with a warning saying this is not acceptable. This is how you got to get rid of your trash. You've got 24 hours, because that's how long you can keep the trash out. You have 24 hours to get rid of this, or we'll be back with some kind of fine.
Fine, yeah.
And that's got, you hit 1 or 2 people the first, the message flies, and people won't do it anymore.
Right,
No, I totally
right.
agree.
Well,
We
there's
gotta
a
Put
consequence.
some,
And
guidelines.
it's not
right.
it's not like a $10 fine. No, it's gotta be, how much is a truck and a crew for 3 hours, to clean up your,
Yeah,
and then some punitive penalty on top of that. So,
Yeah.
How are you gonna handle the renter
very careful.
who puts it all out there? Instead of, I own a property, it's rented to Joe Blow. Joe Blow wants to get out of there. He wants to get his, his deposit back. So he wants to clean out the place. And he cleans it out and puts it out there. Property owner didn't do that.
Yeah, but the property owner is responsible.
Responsible.
right. It's
And so
on their
if
property.
the renter did that and he's wanting his deposit back and the property owner goes out
Probably
there and
wouldn't
goes,
give it back to
goes,
them.
no,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get fined for this. If you don't clean this up, I'm keeping your deposit. Matter of fact, I'm keeping your deposit anyway. So, anyway, I digress.
Well, there are
There's-
some that don't get a deposit.
Yeah, there's.
And what do
Well,
you do with those guys?
That's their business model.
That's,
So-
yeah, that's their
Now, if
problem.
I'm the
That's
owner
their
of the
problem.
property, I'm gonna make sure that I'm not getting ticketed
Yeah.
for something like that.
You're not gonna
So,
get ticketed, and you're not a property owner because you wanna lose money.
Yeah,
You're a property owner because you wanna make money and you wanna provide, quality housing to residents around here. So
Wow.
if they,
Some don't care if it's
that's,
quality.
that's the dream.
Yeah.
So,
what I was nervous of, I thought, well, what if they come back with something that's like gonna put a big burden on everybody that has not been a repeat offender or anything like that, and you guys did not do that at all, I don't believe.
No, it was a nice
appreciate
thorough
that.
report. I just love how many people responded to that survey.
yeah.
And I've always got, for some time, a lot of people that say that they sure do appreciate our trash pickup and the people that do that. Because a lot of other
everyone
cities
I
are
talk to said,
different.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't have a problem because you put out your trash and they pick it
you do the
up.
right thing,
And
yeah.
that's one of the things that I put in here is that, that we looked at outsourcing. And, it does not work, in this city. So we wanted to make sure that the commission knew that we wanted to keep the service provided by the city as intact as possible.
And you made a comment too that, you do lose control if you relinquish that, and then you're at the mercy like the poly
Yeah,
bags.
once you
know.
outsource, it's almost impossible to bring it back in.
Right,
And
and
once
the
you
cost
do
can
that,
keep going
there's
up,
no
because
coming
they have
back.
you, you don't have a choice.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna have to pay what they,
Pay
yeah.
your-
Maybe the
your
first
trash.
year's
And
fine, but
when,
then
when we get to,
If he has any.
does Commissioner Wilson have a?
I was gonna
I
ask the
know,
mayor
I forgot.
to see if he did.
Commissioner Wilson, did you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, only had one question, but first I want to say thank you to the task force and your recommendations. On the items that was listed as prohibited, I didn't see paint buckets. Will that item be prohibited? Because I've noticed quite a few paint buckets on the side of the curb during trash days.
It's prohibited. Yes, it is. Paint cans are prohibited. They're currently prohibited. They're household hazardous waste.
Yeah, we.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we did a comprehensive list of the things that are prohibited. We didn't put like mercury and, other things like that, but these are just the common stuff that people put out. And I know paint's probably one of the most common things put out, but it was already, it's already in the ordinance, so.
Okay.
In that same list, you've got broken glass and needles.
And tires,
And then,
But
well,
the-
tires are not a sharp thing,
no,
but broken glass and needles would be. Could they be put in the boxes per your recommendation?
yes.
So broken needles and glasses could be, broken glass and
Well,
needles.
what we didn't
could
want
be.
them to do is go into the regular collection. We
Yeah.
have a special collection for those type of items.
Right.
for, get a box.
So you're saying, take a hybrid approach, but only for a little while. And then everybody has to have a polycart.
No?
No, they probably could use trash bags, but they'll just have to purchase them themselves,
Yes.
Okay?
that the city
Need
will
to make
still
that-
provide, but
Need
I
to make
mean,
that clear.
at a fee.
Yeah. I just think that
Yeah.
has to be made clear, because,
You kind of either want to be in the trash bag business or you
Or you
don't.
don't.
Yeah, I don't think we want
Yeah,
to.
too.
Yeah, which is,
I mean,
It's
you know,
still a
fine.
cost we'd have to incur and everything.
Yeah.
like that.
I'm just saying, we
So-
just need to make that very clear that, hey, you don't have to take a polycart, but by January of '23, it's either, take a polycart, which we will give to you to use, or you'll go buy your own trash bags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And most people do buy their own trash bags through our conversations with people. They'll use the city trash bags, but, you'll go through those in less time. I do.
I have 6 or 7 rolls of them
Oh, do
in my
share.
garage.
Yeah, do share. Do share.
Well, I mean, it's one box, bags or polycarbonate, that's what it is. So,
You can buy
Yep.
then, we want to emphasize too that, brush side is open. You can take your bags of grass or leaves. You can take them out to the brush side, dump them out, keep your bags, back on, fill them up again, for the next week. You don't have to. It's better for the recycling on the brush side if you did that.
Can I make a couple comments about Mayor?
Sure.
So, I think even though it's one report on refuse, there are many separate items. And if the commission, let me use polycarts for an example. You made the comment, if you don't have them by January 23rd, maybe then you'd have to do bags. I think that would be a polycart policy. So we would have a study session on if the commission liked that hybrid idea, when could you enroll? Do you have an open enrollment period? Could you add it at any time? The pluses and minuses of somebody putting a deposit down. I like the idea of the city providing them on one side, but on the other side, if you don't have a deposit or if you don't have something, no ownership, then what do you care if the polycart is treated well? So there's, in each of these issues, citations, Mr. Obi used the term punitive penalty. You can't do that. We're not allowed to do punitive penalties for city citations. It has to be tied to a service rendered, and there's some legal issues. So for each of these, if we sort of get a consensus that we'd like to go down that direction, then we would have to bring them as a separate agenda item or a separate study session to say, hey, here's a polycart policy, what do you think? Here's a citation methodology, what do you think? I think we need to have a discussion about bags separately. There are some drawbacks, but there are some positives. You get bags from the dollar store and they rip very easily, as opposed to the bags that we get. So I'm not saying you don't go that way, but I think we need to have that discussion. So,
Okay.
I think we got really good direction tonight and really good feedback.
Oh, definitely,
And then I think each of these that we go through, we'll sort of make a list and come back with you and do this.
At a study session.
Yeah,
I mean,
and kind of
with
go through those and let Commissioner Bowder weigh in. I'm sure you're gonna hear from some citizens, you know, all
After
over
that,
with
yeah,
Public Works and the task force as we shape those discussions. I don't think there's, 10 items, but there's probably at least 4 or 5 that we need to, address separately, as we go forward. And how do you codify those? What are the legal ramifications? We've talked for years about giving a code enforcement officer the ability to issue a citation, which is essentially what we're talking about with fines and fees. But there are considerations to that. And there are things that, they have to be empowered, and that's a good, time for David Waters to weigh in on giving somebody else, because right now it's only law enforcement that has the ability to issue an actual citation.
Well, we did look at, there was an issue with shoveling sidewalks or something like that, where you could, on the spot, issue some kind of citation. Because if you waited for it to go through the process, the snow would melt and you don't have any evidence left. So there was a, capability to do that. And if you apply that same capability to the trash, it's there for a certain period of time and then it's gone, or it's
Right, if you
not.
give them a 2-week abatement period, then you're defeating the purpose.
Exactly.
But that's another discussion.
Right, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
no, thank you guys.
No, thank you.
Really
Yeah,
like
great
what you put
work.
together. So.
Yeah, yeah, great team. Yeah, thank
Do you
you.
all wanna add anything?
Do you want to say
Mr. Bryce,
anything?
Mr. Denny?
The one item we talked about when contractors leave.
Can you go to the microphone?
Oh, yeah,
just for the-
please.
just for the-
That's okay, and just state your name and address.
I'm John Denny, a member of the task force. And Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, the one thing we talked about on the remodel work that gets left on the curb is we could be a certain easy thing to put on the permit that all remodel waste is to be disposed of by contractor. And that would perhaps take away some of that problem. And I don't know if you can do that administratively or it takes a commission action, but that would relieve some of the burden.
Okay.
Then you still deal with the people who do their own work.
Right. But in
So,
certain
you're right, it
cases,
takes care of most of it.
in certain cases, though, people are still required to get a permit, even if they do their own work.
Yeah,
But that was just a way of educating the citizens and the public that the waste disposal is their problem. And the other thing I'd like to, it was great working with the city staff. They did a great job in answer of our questions and researched the stuff that we had questions on that they couldn't readily respond to. Safety was a big issue for the workers. We wanted to make sure their workers were safe. And it was great to work with the fellow people on the task force, too. So, thank you.
Thank you.
did you?
Nothing for me.
Nothing, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you, task force, for all your thorough reports, and that helps us out a lot.
And if you have any questions, you contact us through Brian, and we're willing to continue meeting like I said, in July of '23 and December of '23 to revisit some of these actions and see if they need to clarify or if we need to change course. So if the commission would like us to, to continue on, I guess we can get with Mr. Faust.
Right, you'll be contacted, yeah.
Cool deal.
So, okay, yeah, we'll do.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you for your opportunity.
Oh, yeah, no, thank you. I do just want to mention, though, that for the fall, the city, actually, it's September 24th, Lions is going to deliver trash bags.
Yes, we do so.
So, for the fall, just so. Okay, and thank you very much again. Let's go on to RHID presentation, Greenemeyer Reynolds, and it's Mr. Jeremy Greenemeyer. Welcome.
Sarah, you ready for us?
Am I running yet? Penny, would you mind running, Joe?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, you should come up here. It's like, come closer, no?
Thank you. All right, Jeremy Greenemeyer, Reynolds, thanks for having us tonight. It's my understanding that the City Commission has at least received a brief overview of the Rural Housing Improvement District program that's now available in Leavenworth County. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, they have some
Yes.
general.
Okay, so just some general information. Okay, great. So, anyway, for years, Greenemeyer Reynolds we've heard the same message from tenants that I think you hear from your constituents, and that is, where's the affordable housing? It was also, I know it was a big feature of the comprehensive plan, and a couple of years ago, we were looking at options to provide some ourselves, and the best option we came up with was using the low-income housing tax credit program, which, for those of you who don't know, I'll be as brief as possible. It is a government program that provides tax credits to developers to develop different categories of housing. There's everything from really low-income housing to low to moderate income housing, senior housing, family housing. Our proposal that we submitted was for senior, so 55 plus, low to moderate income housing at 2604 2nd Avenue, which is just north of the Evergy Western office. So anyway, once we made the decision to go explore LIHTC, May of 2020, we hired a consultant, went through the process of submitting an application. Everything went well. July of 2021, we got our award from the state of Kansas, and then engaged with architects, engineers, city staff on a full set of biddable plans. So we're really heading towards the goal, and then the reality of some post-COVID construction costs, labor shortages, et cetera, really destroyed our budget. I mean, it was like 30 to 40% over the estimated cost. Part of the problem was the estimated costs were also worked into our pro forma by our consultants who were using their best information, which in this case is from like 19 and 20. So, I judging from what I read in the paper, I don't need to tell you guys about things, going beyond budget.
Oh, yeah.
So some of my favorite highlights, things I've saved, construction inflation alert, no kidding. Senior affordability crisis is coming and no one can make the housing math work. Problem we ran into. Rising construction costs stalls affordable housing projects. And then a local example, Johnson County Board approves a $1 million loan for affordable housing apartments in Shawnee. And that was a project, 20 miles south of here where the city, to make the project continue, ended up writing a check, in the form of a loan, but a no interest loan to the developers for $1 million. Fortunately, that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. So this gets us to probably 6 months ago. We start running into these real serious budgetary constraints. We do our best to work with the state of Kansas, and that would include fewer units, more tax credits, the ability to charge higher rents to the tenants, but ultimately Kansas Housing Resource Corporation, who is the administrator of the program, was unable to approve any of our requests, and so we ended up returning our credits, and so our project was effectively dead. So in the background of all this work we've been doing since May 2020, Senate Bill 90 was going through the state of Kansas, which ultimately became the Rural Housing Improvement District, RHID. And so this next slide kind of gives you just the dates, so you can see kind of the middle column is the dates and what we're doing, the right column is what's going on at the state level, so we're kind of going down parallel tracks with the state. And what I'm, hopefully I'm want to illustrate here is RHAD was not an option when we first started exploring LIHTC. Had it been available, we'd have been talking about RHID 2.5, 3 years ago. So I'm not here to talk about LIHTC, but when I start talking about a project that didn't happen and a project that's ready to go, I thought it made sense to at least let you know why we're sitting on a ready-to-go project. So if you look at the board right now, our project that was, almost pretty darn close to permit ready, was 36 units, mostly 2-bedroom, with a smattering of 1-bedroom units. And the reason we stopped at 36 units was just because of the nuances of the LIHTC program. They only give you so many tax credits, so it really makes sense to stop at a certain point. And that certain point for us was 36 units. You can see the outlines in the top right of the site plan that show the additional 5 duplexes, so an additional 10 units. And that's where we'd like to pick up and talk about the RHID is for these 46 units, so the 36 that were originally planned plus the additional 5 up there. 1-bedroom units, as shown up there, are 575 square feet. 2-bedroom units are 825 square feet. This probably isn't going to make a whole lot of sense on boards here, but you've got a 2-bedroom on the left, a 1-bedroom on the right. They're pretty simple layouts, but that's kind of the point of keeping them affordable. They're just slab on grade units. And in a private cul-de-sac. So, why incentives? Either for LIHTC or for RHID or anything else, and that's simply because infrastructure, the biggest thing we came up with was infrastructure is expensive. And our estimates for site work, utility extension, retention ponds, streets, lights, all the things that kind of fall under infrastructure was in excess of $1 million. And unfortunately, at least in our experience, people don't get real excited about the road in front of their house if it's new or if it's 50 years old. And so it's just an upfront cost that is really tough to overcome when you're trying to get that affordable rental market. I'm certainly not alone in sharing this opinion that infrastructure is expensive and it's prohibitive. From what I can tell, there's been very little, if any, multifamily or affordable construction in the recent past. In fact, all the major developments in the Leavenworth area have pretty much all been incentivized and have been sitting on existing infrastructure. That's your Stove Factory lofts, Abernathy lofts, Benday, the school conversions. There's 386 units, I'm ballparking here, that have all been built with zero infrastructure cost. As far as your typical city streets, sewers, utilities, things like that. And in our experience, at least in the last 5 years, again, we just did a little back of the napkin math. The last 40 units we've built over the last 5 years, albeit most of them in Lansing, have all been built on existing infrastructure. Streets were there, utilities were there, and it's just that's just kind of the nature of, I think, building multifamily and building kind of more affordable things in Leavenworth. Unfortunately, at least with this project on 2nd Avenue, without RHID, this project is probably just going to sit there as ground for who knows how long. Fortunately, as a comparison, Dodge City, who's I think has one of the oldest or certainly most successful RHID programs, from what I can tell from what they have online at least, their first RHID district was designated in 2009. Since then, they have done 12 districts and developed over 300 new units. And that's a combination of single-family, multifamily, senior units.
Affordable housing, yeah.
Well, they all fall. I don't know what the criteria is, and I don't know if if it varies by being in different counties what's considered affordable.
Right.
And the other thing that I think is important in this discussion is there's a couple ways to fund these RHIDs. One is a bonded RHID in which the city fronts the money, and then there's the pay-as-you-go option, which is the one that we would propose. From what I understand, it streamlines the process. It takes a lot of the risk off of the city. You're not obligated to backing up any upfront loans on these things. So I realize I've kind of jumped all over the place. I'm happy to talk about the LIHTC project, but really we're here to talk about RHID, at least in general, because I do think it's a good idea for the city to consider, not just for our project, but for potentially other places in town or other developers you might want to work with. But also our project specifically, considering it is so far down the road. Brian, I don't know if Brian's still here, or Penny or Paul, they can probably give you a better idea of how, how long we've been working on this project, how close we are to getting a permit and getting.
Well, I remember
getting
when you
together.
first, came.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I drive by there a
Yeah.
lot and every once in a while, and this has been months back in that, and I just sort of look over there, and I was like, well, I wonder what's going on with that. Well, evidently nothing.
Well,
because
even if, unfortunately, even if this project was still on track with the LIHTC program, our biggest holdups have been with the state of Kansas. We submitted some things to KDHE back in March that we're still waiting for comments on. So most of the holdups that we've had on those have been, I mean, it's not a city holdup, it's state holdups. But as far as the concerns of the city in going through your process, I think we're pretty well through most of them. So
Okay.
anyway, if you have any, or have you take any questions or continue the conversation?
Paul, did you want to?
Yeah, I have a few things, but I'll
Okay.
let the commission go first, mine's more.
Have anything?
Any questions right now? No.
No, I'm curious, I mean, I'm not in the construction industry.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, okay, how specifically does the RHID cover the gap in financing?
So I can cover that. So
Okay.
how it essentially works is like a commercial TIF. We've done TIF districts, and what that means is you set a base year for the property taxes collected by a parcel. And then the dollars created by the improvements are subject to reimbursement for eligible costs for a developer. So essentially, if the commission were to go forward on something like this, roughly how it works is this property generates basically nothing now, but with the new construction, it would generate X amount of dollars. And then you would come up with a development agreement with the developer that your gap is X, and then based on over however many years it takes to generate those dollars, you would reimburse them back to the developer for eligible costs, if that makes sense.
Yep, that makes sense.
And to jump, I'm getting this from Kansas State of Commerce's website, in what's considered eligible cost. Let's see, the increment can be used to reimburse costs for the following items: land acquisition, which we don't need because we already own it; site preparation, sanitary and storm sewers, drainage conduits, channels and levees, street grading and paving, street light fixtures, connections and facilities, gas, water, heating, and electrical services in public right-of-way, sidewalks, water mains and extensions, and certain costs for upper-level improvements, which obviously there are none for that. So it's basically paying for all of the unsexy stuff below ground.
Yeah, that's
Stuff no one will see.
needed, yeah.
And the one thing I forget if Paul kind of closed the loop on this is, let's say it's, easy figure, $1 million is the price for all the infrastructure. Once this is paid off, it's paid off. If it gets paid off in 15 years, then that's the end of it. If it takes 18 years, 20 years, 12 years, whatever the case is, what closes these things out is the payoff of the debt. There's no money that gets redirected to us as compensation or profit for this. It's truly just going towards the eligible
costs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those conditions would be defined by the commission. Let me step back a few steps here. I don't like the comparison to your Dodge cities and your Garden cities. There's a reason it's called the Rural Housing Incentive District. Those uses were to drive population that wasn't happening, but with the inclusion of Senate Bill 90 moving to counties beyond 80,000, which is when we got included, it does marry with something in the city's adopted economic development incentive policy, which is one of the areas that is eligible for incentives is under housing. Housing developments for seniors and the disabled are the highest priority. It's the city's intentions to encourage development. So if you're asking, would this be eligible for other housing, it could be under city commission discretion, but housing for seniors is included in our economic development incentive policy. There are a couple other steps that aren't common with this. You have to do a housing feasibility study. The whole agreement has to be submitted to the Secretary of Commerce for approval, so there are further steps in the process that you would have to go through. And the city certainly could set the parameters of what we determine. Those are the eligible costs by statute, but the city can come up with what we agree on are eligible costs, or the maximum amounts of those eligible costs.
Okay. Oh, Commissioner Wilson, did you have anything?
No, I'm just hoping to learn more about it. Just keeping an open mind. Definitely want to dive a little deeper to see what our options are.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Jeremy, for everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
What is the next step on this?
Yeah,
So,
what do we have?
Just for anybody listening, I'll get with the commissioners and see what individual questions we may have. Maybe schedule a meeting with the development team, see what our individual thoughts are, if we need more information, and then determine the next step after we do that.
Would it be appropriate for me to follow up with any, like, links to stuff with the state, or you kind of?
Yeah, you can send everything to me,
Okay.
and I'll disseminate all information, or all the information to the commission.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Because some of these site plans and building plans make a lot more sense when you can print them off and look at them than just. look at
Right, well, and I remember, well, it's been a
Yeah,
while
we-
since I've seen
But
them.
we've seen that site
Have you
plan, I
guys-
think.
them. Yeah, yeah.
Were they here for that?
Well, I don't know, I don't think you were on the commission at the
No.
time we went through, but it's,
Yeah.
maybe you've seen it, go through DRC maybe?
I might have been sitting out there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Because I did that a few times
Because
before.
The
You
city
came a
did
while
endorse
back.
the application for the low-income housing tax credits. It requires a local resolution, and the city did sign off on that.
Okay, yeah.
I was successful. And I'll add that it is no easy feat to actually be awarded low-income housing tax credits, and so that is positive.
Yeah, well, you're part of the award for the low income housing tax credits is because you have proved the need, which I think, doesn't surprise anyone here.
Right, no. How big is that back in there?
It's a little less than 5 acres.
Okay,
Um,
and where would you come in at on the,
Second Avenue, and it is a
okay,
kind of a P-shaped road. We wanted to keep it, because these were.
I was just curious.
In fact, let me go back.
Back one?
Because I drive by it, yeah, so I thought it was on the other side.
Yeah, so if the old farmhouse, the craftsman style house is right here, so you'd be entering here. We kept it as a kind of a P-shaped road just to keep it from, we really wanted to eliminate drive-through traffic because this is aimed at 55 plus, or at least the light tech was aimed at 55 plus.
Right.
We wanted to keep it, the traffic down as
Quieter,
much as possible.
yeah.
We worked with our, obviously, police and fire on making sure the roads were wide enough and the turn radiuses were such that any city vehicles could make it through. So,
Okay, cool.
thank you very much.
Okay, thank
This is
you.
Second Avenue?
See, correct. Second
Okay.
Avenue runs north and south along the entrance.
Yep,
Yeah,
Westar, Kansas Gas is on the south side.
yep. Thank you.
You bet.
thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks.
Okay, that ends our study session. Mr. Kramer, did you have anything?
I don't know.
Okay. Commissioner Wilson, did you have any final comments, sir?
I just send a special shout out to the prayer for the teachers as well as the students as they return back to school today. I know some parents are very excited. I know my kids are excited to be back in school, and I'm excited as well as a parent.
Thank you. Commissioner Hinkela?
September 9th will be the last we see of them, huh?
Correct. So, Bird
Yes.
Scooters did notify the city, of their plans to end our pilot program, so
Yep.
September 9th will be the last day.
Okay, yeah, I saw that on, somebody posted what was already posted. They took and they grabbed it also and put it on their own on, what do you call it, Facebook.
Oh, okay.
The account representative made sure to let us know that they had appreciated the city's partnership in this program, and it
Sure.
really was, they just didn't see this being sustainable right now. As you saw from the data that was sent out, the levels were fairly high in July and then dropped off dramatically and really never recovered, so.
Yeah, one of the comments made about it was, well, of course, it got hot, nobody wants to be out there on them. You know, and I don't know if they would have had the same kind of lull in ridership in the wintertime if we get snow. I'm told that somebody told me, yeah, as hot as this is, there's gonna be a lot of snow in winter. Yeah, okay, well, that's, but Well, thank you, though.
Yeah.
And I know you put in a lot of work on it, you know. Hopefully, at some other time, you know, as the city grows, there'll be another opportunity for them.
That would come back to the city commission for their
Right.
consideration because the agreement is required.
Sure. Thank you.
I'm gonna say, God bless everybody.
I know. That's all I have. Everyone just have a safe, great week. That's it.